Hey, what's going on, guys? BobbyFi here. I thought I'd just stop in and drop in just my thoughts on the slate in general for MLB and then talk a little NBA for a minute. Only going to play a few lineups, but it's a fun Sunday. There's a lot of stuff going on, so thought I would throw out a little bit of what I'm doing today. Um, my stacks, my current builds are in the premium channel. Rody also did his playbook, so check that out. In general, we've got the Goldie and Sheets projection, so make sure you're checking on everything on through SaberSim and through us directly. But I will get into the slate in just a minute. Just waiting for a few more people to pop in and trying to update my my premium stuff here. Updated early builds. The problem is, I think that the ownership is going to condense a little bit because of the weather games. So basically, my favorite stacks are Cleveland, Atlanta. No real shocker there. I think Boston would be my next favorite one. No real great hitting weather today. You've got ugly temperatures all over the place. The Yankees actually have one of the better spots, and unfortunately, they go against a guy who I love and I hate picking on, and Pablo Lopez. We've also got Garrett Cole, obviously, on the other side, who will be in most of my baseball lineups, even though I'm only playing a few. Obviously, I don't no need to explain why I think you should stack against Corbin. I don't even think that it's worth discussing. The pitching, the other stacks that I like, I do like Philly quite a bit, and I actually think that I might convert some of my ownership from Cleveland over to Philly. Just I'm trying to look at the numbers. I'm trying to get a feel for who's going to be a little bit more owned than we expect, and they're both going to have some ownership. But I think Philly ends up a little bit lower owned as a stack than Cleveland. So Philly is a team I'm considering moving ahead of Cleveland right now. But those are the teams for me: Cleveland, Philly, Atlanta, Angels, and Boston, both sides. Those would be the teams I'm looking at. But basically, in that order: Cleveland, Philly, Atlanta. I think that would be my optimal way of doing it. I also like the Cardinals a little bit, but I'm not going to get too spread out, and I'm not playing enough lineups too, really. Pitching is interesting because we've done really well lately on getting some of the right pitchers at low ownership. And I think there's some opportunities today. I think that you've got some really, a great spend up in Garrett Cole. You've got some, an awesome play if the weather's okay with Dylan Cease, just because his strikeout upside is so high. But I love the Mikolas, Gallen, Nola. All of these guys really pop for me, and I love the idea of if I play Garrett Cole, to try to play one of Bieber or Alcantara. I think that both those guys obviously have tremendous upside, and I think it's a real and good matchups, by the way. And I think that going for the ultimate ceiling, if you're going to play Cole and trying to get 60 out of your pitchers is an interesting route to go on this slate. And there's enough value out there where I think you can do it. So that's sort of a brief overlook of what's happening on what I would do. Of course, good to see you, K9. If you want to talk a little FanDuel, I'll jump over there. I didn't play on FanDuel because I just didn't get the lineups in, and it's already close enough to time. So I'll take a quick look and see what I'd be doing over there. I think it's pretty clear that you play Garrett Cole as your number one pitcher. If you wanted to pivot, I still like the Mikolas pivot. I also think you could make an argument for Alcantara, and those would be the guys I'd be heaviest on. And I think you got a reasonable, you could always take a shot with Nola or Cease, but if the weather's okay. I'm not messing with the weather games right now. Same teams for stacks for me on FanDuel. I just would encourage. I think today would be a day where I would definitely be doing 4-3-1s, 4-4s, probably not getting to as many 4-1-1-1s or anything like that, or 3-3-2s. I do like the stacks that I mentioned, and it's just not great hitting weather everywhere. So I think the correlation means a little bit more when there should be theoretically there should be less home runs today. So that's where I'm at. I will jump into basketball because I like, it's actually kind of a fun basketball site, but drop in NBA, drop in MLB questions whenever you want. But I'm happy to answer anything. But I am definitely going to talk a little basketball because I want to see what we've got in terms of value. We've got a lot of Q tags for a first round of the playoffs thing, but I think most of them we can kind of ignore. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and make some notes of guys I like and guys I don't like. Let's see. Here is the SaberSim projections for the NBA. Sheets won't always have his on the weekend for the playoffs, but he will have them during the week up there. He might have even pushed them separately on the site, but it might just be taking a minute to upload to SaberSim. Anyway, very hard not to have a little bit of interest in trying to find some of the value here. And that's where I'm sort of, I don't want to say struggling. It's just where I'm at on this slate. Like, which value do we like and which do we want to avoid? For me, I'm totally cool with the Okogie play, but because of we've got him at almost 30 minutes and we just need value. So Okogie does make just sense for that reason, if nothing else. So I'm going to put him down as one of my guys that I'll be looking at. Tillman, another one, and those are just the two best projection plays according to SaberSim. And I think that they're both completely viable. I want to find a game to sort of go after here, and my favorite games would be I love Cat in the Minnesota game. I think his projection is far. Oh wait, wow. On FanDuel he's way more. This is why I was confused. FanDuel's really throwing me. I really threw myself off there by going through FanDuel. I was like, wait a minute, this is looking different than I did last night. Going back to it on DraftKings because I'm not playing on FanDuel for this. I do think like Cat is one of my favorite spend ups. I actually think that this might not be the game. This might be the game where Minnesota gets smashed, but I could see this being a very interesting series just because of the way that the positions work. Playoffs day, we always say it. It's always about matchups. And it's really hard not to have Cat and Nickeil Alexander-Walker as priorities for me on this slate. Every spend up feels too cheap, so any value you get, I would try to take advantage of. Jamal Murray's price is very reasonable for a playoff game. I think Murray's a very nice run back from the other two guys. Again, you're going to just have to eat some ownership, and you're kind of going to have to deal with a lot of guys today. You see the ownership on Jokic being non-existent. Now, he'll end up with higher than this. We saw the same thing yesterday with Embiid. But both Jokic and Giannis are just going to be hard to get in, so people aren't going to play them much. I don't know if I'll end up with any of them, but I do certainly like them. Another guy who I like a lot who's going to be lowish owned is Ja. I think Ja is actually almost as good a play as those guys are. And maybe if you can find a way to get a Ja, Cat, Nickeil Alexander-Walker base, that's probably a pretty tempting thing to do. I'm gonna sort of be a little lower on the Miami-Milwaukee game, but I like this Laker Memphis game between Tillman, Morant, and then the problem is the pricing with everybody else. I think Santi Aldama is an interesting tournament play, and I could see him getting more run. Both he and Roddy are like my thin tournament plays that I'm considering from this game. The LeBron and Anthony Davis thing, I would prefer Davis if I had to pick one, but I like D'Angelo Russell here. D'Angelo Russell played really well, and I hate D'Angelo Russell all the time. D'Angelo Russell played really well against these guys and in the playoffs last year when he was playing for Minnesota. And I think that he can carry some of that over, especially with the attention that gets focused on LeBron and AD. So I kind of like the idea of Russell and Hachimura a little bit. I also don't mind Reeves. I think all of these guys are very firmly in play. I think people are going to perceive because they pulled Russell in the last game that that's just going to be what happens. I don't think that's necessarily a guarantee, but if I wasn't playing Russell, I certainly would consider Schroeder. This is definitely the game that I have the most interest in from both sides, where I can play Russell and Rui, and on the other side, I can run it back with Ja and either Tillman, basically Ja or Tillman or Aldama or Roddy. I think those are some actually viable value plays. Max Strus hit a bunch of threes the other night and is going to be owned because of it. I think he's an interesting tournament play, but I don't want to play him at this ownership. Both Kyle Lowry and Gabe Vincent being questionable, I think they're both going to play. I'm kind of ignoring it, but if anybody's out, it will change my look everywhere. If I had to take a gamble on either of those guys, it would be Gabe Vincent. And I love Butler in the playoffs. I just don't think I'm going to get to him today. Bam as well. These guys are all going to be owned, and I think that I'm just going to have to take a stand and hope that Milwaukee beats the hell out of Miami. That's sort of the way I'm looking at it. Giannis's career is by far his worst numbers of any team against Miami. Not a surprise there. But I still think that, if you can find a way to get either here Jokic, go ahead and do it. I just haven't found a way that I liked enough without sacrificing too much elsewhere. So I didn't get to basically anything over here. And if I had to, it would be Grayson Allen, who's another value play who can certainly shoot his way in there. So actually, I think I will put Allen on my list here and sort of in that Allen, Rui, And then you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who will be in all my lineups in that range. In the Clippers-Phoenix game, I want to play Westbrook, actually, but I just couldn't find a build that I liked enough to have him in it. I think I might still look at it again. It's more just, where is their offense going to come from outside of Kawhi? And if you're not going to play those guys, maybe we should be looking at all of Zubac, Gordon, and Powell. It just feels like there's a lot of guys who could end up stepping up here. And I really don't have a great feel for the minutes. If you tell me Marcus Morris is going to get minutes, hey, I'll buy the Marcus Morris in Phoenix narrative anytime. But I just couldn't find anything that quite fit for me from their side. And also, this is an interesting game. I'm really curious to see how this series plays out. This is the one I have, sort of the most wild, all over the place feel, like not really a feel for. I do think the Clippers can win this series, and I'm probably in the minority on that one. You've got reasonable pricing for everybody, whether you want to play Durant, Paul, Ayton, or you got a Kogi also for value, and even Torrey Craig to some extent because of the lack of value. I think Kogi makes a lot more sense, but I think a Kogi is probably the one I'm going to end up playing just because I don't want to. I don't know. I don't know how much I really want to stack up the. It's just hard. It's hard to pick between Chris Paul, Booker, Ayton, and Durant. Although I have to say, Chris Paul does feel like the most, cheap for what he's probably going to put up 35 all the time here. And DeAndre Ayton feels pretty like he's going to put up 35 all the time. I think Durant and Booker both put up in the 40s sometime, but they're just a little bit more expensive, making it a little bit harder for me to build. And I think that Karl Anthony Towns, with the role that he's playing right now in Minnesota, might have more upside than either of those guys. So I am sort of interested in playing Towns instead of those guys and hoping it works out, because it does worry me that not to have all of those Phoenix guys. But again, it's kind of hard to pick which one. And then Jamal Murray clearly looks like the best value from the Denver side. But I like the idea of playing Michael Porter Jr. I wish it was going to be a little sneakier. Never like to play him as chalk. But I can talk myself into playing Bruce Brown instead of him. No problem with that. I think Bruce Brown is going to get more run than people are projecting. Right now, the minutes 27 they projected at. I wouldn't be surprised to see 35 out of him. I really wouldn't. So that's sort of my little core of guys that I'm deciding between. Cat and Nickeil Alexander-Walker's automatic. Ja, Murray, Russell, Rui, Grayson Allen, Okogie, and then trying to see if you can find maybe a Porter MPJ or a Bruce Brown. You'd like to get the studs in. We wish we had some value. Just very hard to speculate this early on. And I want to talk real quickly again before I get out of here, just about what we can look at for maybe super thin value. Just play a narrative, play something that could happen. Malik Beasley would be my get weird one on the Lakers side. I mentioned Aldama already, or Aldama or Roddy on the Memphis side. Remember, we have the most foul prone player in the league since he came in. And if he goes down against AD and the size that the Lakers are going to play with, who the hell else do they think is going to play? It's going to be Aldama and Roddy. If Jackson gets injured, gets into foul trouble, in addition to Tillman. I really believe that. I'm not 100% on it, but I do believe it. Will they go small and play Kennard? It's possible. I don't know. I'm sort of leading to that I need to play one of Tillman and potential, and still considering potentially Aldama or Roddy. Not sure what I'm doing yet with this one. It keeps sort of bending my brain. Look, you have value potential with Struss. I think he's going to be so owned. I'm going to probably avoid it, but it is a reasonable enough shot to take. I also think Caleb Martin, if you're not going to play him, is. And then we don't know. It's a different thing than we've been in. Just keep an eye out for Oladipo and Love later in the series. Maybe today, but maybe later in the series is where I'm going to probably take some shots. I just want to get a better feel for it first. Not the super thin play on Milwaukee is Pat Connaughton and Joe Ingles. I don't think I'm going to get to them, but I certainly don't mind if you want to take a gamble on some of this extra value. Terrence Mann fits that mold as a get weird guy for the Clippers, as does Bones Highland. For Phoenix, not really anybody to get weird with. Cam Payne, maybe you could talk yourself into, but I don't think I would do that. The get weird on Minnesota, probably too thin to be looking at guys like Noel and McLaughlin on this slate. But there's a path. I think if I took a shot on Noel, I wouldn't hate myself for it. But those are just these are 150 max type of plays. And then my get weird play in the Denver game would be maybe to play the blowout angle and maybe play Jeff Green or Christian Braun. I can never figure out how to say that guy's name the right way. Oops. So anyway, so that's sort of a rundown again. Cat, Russell, Nikhil Alexander Walker, Ja, Murray, Rui, Grayson Allen, Josh Okogie. Those are sort of my core. And if you want to talk about baseball, we can jump back on over there. I'm going to go finish my builds and say good luck to everybody. I hope you guys crush it today. Let's make some money. I'm glad to be able to join you just for a few minutes even. And good luck, everybody. I'll leave it up for 1 second to see if there's questions. If not, I'm just going to jump on out of here. All right. Looks like we're good in the streets. Good luck, everybody. Let's crush it today. Good luck, all.